Hello, my name is Wesson, and today I'm going to talk about the short story, which is called Close to the Water's Edge, written by Claire Keegan. And I'll start out by giving a short summary of the story. The story starts in a building complex near the coast of Texas. The main character has a flashback about his grandmother, who he misses a lot because he lived with her while his parents were having discussions. The next thing that we hear is that the main character, his mother, and her husband are sitting in a fancy restaurant because they are celebrating his birthday. In the end, he leaves them and walks home by the coast. The environment that we're living in is upper class because his stepfather is rich, although the main character doesn't kind of relate to him and feel comfortable since he grew up with his grandmother who taught him other values. The physical setting in the short story begins in a building in Texas, which belongs to the main character's stepfather. The surroundings are described as typical coast life where people come out to lie almost naked. The building is close to Texas coast, which reminds him of his grandmother. Later on, they go to a restaurant called Leonardo's, where they celebrate the young man's birthday. It looks like a nice place where they receive good service, given that the stepfather knows the owner. The social setting in the story takes place in a postmodern society, and there are plenty of examples that show us that. For example, there is an alternative family unit, middle-class marriage, talk about politics. These things are postmodern because they separate themselves from the modernism society. The modern society is described in the flashback about his grandmother, where she had to deal with her controlling husband. The young man is the main character of the short story. He is a Harvard student. His parents are divorced. Throughout the story, the young man has a developing process where he goes from being insecure to living his own birthday party. He doesn't like family occasions, and we can see that on page 2, line 4 to 5. He feels the same trepidation he always feels at these family occasions and wonders why he came back here. It's clear here that he feels scared of his family. The main character also comes across as humble and shy when his mom brags about him going to Harvard University. When he responds, "It's no big deal, Mom." The atmosphere between the young man and Richard are awkward. His stepfather comes across as conservatism and Republican, whereas he seems more idealist. He also misses his grandmother, which gives him nostalgia. The mother is divorced from the young man's father, but she is now married to a millionaire. She comes from a poor family, and she hasn't had the opportunity to have that lifestyle, and maybe that's why she's taking advantage of it now. It seems like she's ashamed of her background, but proud to see her son moving forward, as I mentioned before. And I'll also give an example of that in page 3, line 11 to 12. My boy's going to Harvard University. I'm a pig farmer's daughter from Tennessee, and my boy's going to Harvard. When I'm low, I always remember that, and it cheers me up. Lastly, we have Richard, who is the mother's new husband. He is a millionaire and has a wealthy lifestyle where he eats in fancy restaurants. In the short story, he has a conservative mind when he talks about politics. And we can also see an example of that in page 4, line 9 to 11. What kind of defense would that be? A bunch of queers. We didn't win 2 world wars that way. I don't know what this country is turning into. In the short story, there's a conflict between the young man and his stepfather. They have a political disagreement. The main character has a hard time relating to the new lifestyle that his mother and her husband are managing, because obviously he grew up in a different environment. The characters kind of relate to each other when they are in the restaurant because they are in the same environment and they have to behave the same way. In the short story, the young man wonders why he came back to Texas when he could just be alone home celebrating his own birthday. He feels obligated to be together with his mother, even though he felt out of place. And his behavior during the birthday dinner was like out of place because he was silent and he didn't say anything. And the meaning of his grandmother's story connects a lot to the young man's story because they both felt out of place and just wanted to be free. The idea of the family, the grandmother came back to her old usual life because she was feeling the pressure of the idea of the family. She wanted to subvert order since things were hard at that time. In the end, she regretted her choice of coming back. And the young man did the same thing by leaving the restaurant and reaching the seaside. The grandmother had a controlling husband who is very similar to his stepfather of the young man. The nightly swim means that the young man just wanted to clear his mind and escape from his family and try to connect with his grandmother's actions. In the short story, there are lots of words that play a major role and symbolize different things, and I'll just mention some of them. The first one is cufflinks. Cufflinks is like a physical object that he received from his grandmother, and that kind of shows his affection towards her. And the second thing is the pink cake. And the pink cake is something that his mother ordered, which could symbolize his mother's love and affection for her son. Also, the mother's shopping habits. You can say that the mother is taking advantage of her husband's money because she grew up in a poor family. The main themes of the story are homosexuality, family issues, and finding yourself. And the first one is homosexuality because when Richard starts to talk about a sensitive subject, gay people, we can sense that the young man kind of get offended or like get upset. He criticizes gay people in front of the young man, and we get a hint that he might be gay. And the second theme is finding yourself. Throughout the story, the young man has a conflict with himself. He went back to Texas to celebrate his birthday with his mother and his stepfather, even though he felt uncomfortable, and you can sense that he is considering leaving the table multiple times when they were celebrating him. And also mentioned family issues because we see the tension between the young man and his mother. Although his mother brags about him, he doesn't respond. The reason for that could maybe be because his mother married a millionaire instead of taking care of her son. In the end, he leaves them both, which would be interpreted as he had enough. You can say that the young man took his grandmother's advice by not climbing back into the car. His grandmother made a mistake when she decided to come back to her controlling husband. She never stood on her own or fought for herself. However, the young man learned to not repeat the same mistake as her, and that's why he left the dinner table. He couldn't stand being in a toxic environment and went out to swim, yearning for a free life. In conclusion, the story is about family issues and homosexuality. Thank you.